if you run any sort of landing pages or ads or funnels, this video is going to be very, very helpful for you because what we're going to be breaking down is how to do something called progressive conditional logic. And this is a very high level, sort of advanced marketing topic, but essentially the way it works at its core is reducing friction for qualified people and then increasing friction and training the pixel only to push through the right people, increasing friction but still allowing through and gathering info from people who normally would just be disqualified and let off. So it's a way of maximizing profitability, being able to train the pixel, and then also letting through more of your ideal customer. Shout out to James Neves for sort of coming up with the concept. Very, very talented marketer. But this is something I apply in a lot of our businesses now, especially when we're trying to dial in the data so we can give that back to Facebook and get more accurate, qualified people coming in. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right in. So first, just have to understand the core concepts here. So throughput, right? This is the first thing. You always want to optimize for throughput first, right? So when you have an ad, right, that's going to then push to a landing page, right? And then that's either going to have like an opt-in or it's going to have a calendar. And then one of those, whether it's a, salesperson, whatever, SP for salesperson, and then they're going to, turn that into money, right? Now, you have all these different checkpoints. For the sake of this example, we're going to just imagine that we're using a landing page here. And we have all these people, right? So here's our sort of TAM. We have a very small TAM, 4 people. Generally, you want more than 4 people in your TAM. Now, you have all those people come. They're interested from the ad. They hit your landing page, right? This is the person that bounces, right? So this is the conversion rate on the landing page. And then these are the people that went through. 75% get through. They go to the closer. The closer closes 2/3 of those, right? And then boom, that's where you get the money from, right? Throughput, all of that's good. Pretty straightforward. If you have more people come through, there are more people that can convert. You make more money from that. On the other hand, right, you have qualification. And this is important for a couple different reasons, right? And so qualification means we've got Mr. Rich Guy over here. So he has $3 signs. Got a decent amount of money over here. And then we've got, Craig, who doesn't have a job. What we want to do with qualification is let Mr. Rich Guy go through, let smaller, still rich guy through, but send Craig away for a couple of reasons. So first off, good clients, right? People don't have any money. They're generally going to be more of a headache client because if they're spending a larger percentage of their net worth to get the result, they're going to, be a little bit more demanding, right? Imagine you spent half of your net worth for something. You're going to want to make sure you get your return versus if it's like a 1/100th of your net worth. Now, obviously, have a good product. That goes without saying, but people can be more demanding than necessary, more on edge, and generally they also will be a little bit less self-sufficient in terms of just trusting the process and trusting, hey, you guys have done this before, we can get the result. So good clients is the first reason. Next one, and these two are kind of tied together, time and team, right? So the happiness of the salespeople, right? Or of you in this case, if you're taking your sales calls, if you're talking to a bunch of people that aren't qualified and that, you really shouldn't be talking to because you can't really help them. Obviously, it's going to waste a lot of time. It's also going to piss off either you or your team. And what that can also kind of do, and this is, I think, overlooked by a lot of marketers, is just subconsciously, sales is like a very sort of mental game. And if you're, talking to a bunch of people that can't afford your product, you can't help, whatever, starts to get in their head, and that can affect conversion rates on actually qualified prospects. So again, another reason you want to avoid letting people that aren't the right fit through. Lastly, you have data, right? So there's something called a pixel, right? That is what basically gathers the data on if someone comes through. Should we send you more of these or should we send you less of these? Retargeting lets you track if you're getting conversions, etc. And if you're letting, Craig through and he's going through, and then here is where the pixel would be hit, right? If the pixel is getting pinged, it's going to be like, oh, Craig, another lead. Craig's not very expensive. Let's send them more Craigs. And, a lower CPM, whatever, the ad account is going to optimize for more of Craig. And if you're going to optimize for people that you can't convert, that's a problem, right? So this is the balance. I think these concepts are relatively straightforward, but I just want to sort of reiterate them. So then the question becomes like, how do we sort of make those work together? And that's where progressive conditional qualification or progressive conditional logic comes in. So when they get in on the opt-in page, the main goal is to reduce friction for qualified people, right? So if someone comes in and they are the right fit, we don't want to make it very, very difficult where they have to go through 13 different questions to get through, right? Because especially if they have money, right? They're qualified, they probably opted into a couple other things, they can bounce, right? And if they bounce too early, you don't gather their info, you can potentially lose that qualified client, right? So when they come in, we have certain questions on the initial form, the initial opt-in, that's going to determine if someone is qualified, right? And so that can be like, hey, are you running an agency? Hey, how much revenue are you guys doing? Like, are you running the business? How much revenue are you guys doing? How long have you been in business, right? If you're running like a funding offer, what's your credit? All of that good stuff. Now, if they answer the core questions, you're generally going to have a few key questions that's going to determine if someone's qualified or not. For example, this is not necessarily something you want to run, but I'm just going to give you a very blunt example, right? Let's say question 1 is how much are you willing to invest in your marketing? You can have it. So if someone puts, let's say you have a 2K or less, right? You got 2 to 5K and then 5 to 10K, right? The way this starts to work is you can set it so if someone puts 5 to 10K and let's say you have like a $3,000 offer, this is an automatic yes, an automatic qualified, right? You sort of go top down. If they put this, no matter what else they put, they are going to be pushed through to a booking page. Now on this booking page, it's what's called pixeled, right? That means it has a pixel on there. That way we can gather that data from this person, right? And so you're going to have questions there. If they answer, a quote unquote green light question, right? They say they have a lot of money to invest. They're doing a lot of revenue per year. You're not going to send them through as many form questions, and you're just going to go ahead and send them straight to the booking page because we want to reduce friction, get them booked in with like a salesperson or watching the webinar or whatever as quickly and as efficiently as possible. Now, where this gets cool is if you just leave it at this, where if, someone answers this, you send them on their way. Someone answers this, maybe you let them through, and this you let them through, right? You have this big batch of 2/3, but then here you've got 1/3 of your overall audience just being sent away. You're not gathering their info, you're not talking to them, all of that. Now, there are two things there. First of all, can't always judge a book by its cover, right? Sometimes someone may be new to business, not have any revenue, but they set aside $50,000 to launch it from their corporate job before, right? And that person, just based off of, let's say you had a question, how much revenue is your business doing? If they put below 10K a month, right, you might just instantly DQ that person, right? And you just lost a potential really good client. And so that's one issue. The other is sometimes people accidentally answer forms wrong. Right? You have someone that's maybe doing $50,000 a month. Maybe they read it wrong. They thought how much profit. And so then they said, less than 10K profit, right? Maybe they're profiting 8. That person also would be DQ'd even though they're doing $50,000 a month revenue, right? And you're not going to get that booking. And so the way that conditional logic works is instead of just DQing this 1/3 and then keeping this 2/3, right? What we do is if they are not initially qualified, right? They don't check that box. They are sent to a more qualifications page. So this one's going to be a lot simpler, right? So this initial one, qualification number 1, is, maybe 3 questions, right? If they answer correctly on those 3, go here straight to booking and we're getting that pixeled page, right? If they're not qualified, instead of just sending them on their way, right, we're going to send them to a more qualification page. And so second qualification is going to have 7 different things that they answer. And these will be maybe a little bit more blunt, right? Hey, right now, most of the companies we work with are doing X amount of revenue. You're not doing that amount of revenue. Do you have at least, access to $10,000 in credit so we can apply this to you, right? It can be a little bit more of a blunt question, right? And what's going to happen is some people will bounce, but you're going to have other people that can go through here and they can opt in and continue to answer those questions. You can start to get more of those edge scenarios. So instead of maybe 1/3 being DQ'd, maybe it ends up being 1/4 instead, right? But that's still, right, the difference between 1/4 and 1/3, that's a decent number of people, and at a large scale, you're getting a lot more deals through than you otherwise would. Do you see how that works? Now, the other thing we do is after they go through these qualification questions, right, when they're pushed to the booking page, it's going to be a slightly different booking page. So it's going to be unpixeled because we don't want to optimize for more of those people, right? Even if they maybe have access to the credit, we don't want to optimize for more people who are probably running or who are just starting a business, especially if we serve like business owners. And so we're still going to give that person the opportunity to book because they have access to credit, they can pay, they probably can get results with us, but they're an exception to the rule. And so we don't want to feed Facebook back that data, right? We don't want to optimize for exceptions. We want to optimize for the sort of broader target market, right? And so what this ends up allowing us to do is this doesn't send that data back to Facebook, right? So we're not optimizing for more Craigs in this example, right? But if we have Lewis, who's new to business, he has $50,000 liquid to invest, he still can book on when he would have otherwise been disqualified. And so that's sort of the foundation of how this whole concept works. The whole point is you want to reduce friction for upfront qualified people, send that data back to Facebook, feed it more of that good information so you can get more of them, but also give another opportunity, kind of give a second chance for people who may not upfront seem qualified, right? Give them the opportunity to go a little bit more in depth, explain a little bit more of their situation. And then if they are still qualified, they can go to a non-pixeled booking page. And another thing that we'll do, this is another little added, right? This might be a demo call page, right? So they go and they book directly on the calendar. Here, this could be like a discovery call page where they opt in, they submit their info, and it's like, hey, our team will reach out to you. And then that gives your team a chance to go through the data. And if you're like, after reading through it, hey, probably not qualified, send them a text and say, hey, probably not a fit. Let me offer you maybe this downsell or a different resource, right? Or if they are qualified, your team can reach out. But this way, anybody who's sort of like an edge case scenario, they're not taking calendar space on your demo calendar and blocking out potential, people here that are, tier 1 perfect prospects, right? They're not blocking off that calendar space, but you're still able to capture that data. That's how it works. It kind of kills 3 birds with 1 stone, which is reducing friction for qualified people, training the pixel on getting more of the right people in, and then not bouncing edge case scenarios where you could still convert them, and giving them an opportunity to come in and actually convert, which squeezes more money out of your marketing for you. So that's kind of how it works. If you apply this, you're going to start to see more throughput on sort of edge case scenarios that you would have otherwise lost. You'll see your pixel getting more and more dialed in, so you're getting more qualified people, and overall you'll make more money with. Now, I hope you got a lot of value from that concept, and if you go and apply this, you're going to get a lot more throughput, you're going to make a lot more money, and overall to just be beneficial for your business. But I know a lot of people, they're like, I don't really know where to start. Like conceptually, I understand it, but in terms of the integration and actually applying this, I don't know where to begin, or there's a lot of uncertainty on, what do I actually need to get more traction with the business? If that's the case for you, I actually linked a calendar in the description here. So obviously, as you probably know, I run an agency. I work specifically in building sales and marketing systems for people. And so if you have a business or you're looking to launch a business right now, if you book on, you'll be speaking with me directly. And we'll kind of go through, audit where things are at for you. And if things make sense, we potentially can end up working together as like a partnership basis or a sort of consulting basis to get you more traction with your business. If not, just take the free value, apply it yourself. You can also get amazing, amazing results with that as well. So with that said, I hope you got a lot of value from this video. If you had any sort of takeaways or questions, leave them in the comments. I'm pretty good at replying to those. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next one. Take care.